Hi, Bruce here, and welcome back. Or hopefully it's back and you've been following along. Anyway, welcome to my classroom in the forest, and where I make these small, short, well, not that short, videos, and I talk about a person, I talk about a thing, and talk kind of about an idea. All right, the person for today is, man of the hour, Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine. Guys, really, he's putting on a master class in leadership. He was offered escape. He said, "I don't need escape. I need ammunition." And then he's just a portrait of inspiration. The guy's doing a fine job, and the Ukraine people are doing wow. This is not working out the way many people thought it would, and my absolute respect goes to the citizens of Ukraine, as well as my many Ukrainian friends who live in Canada and the West. And there you go. And Western leaders, anyone in a decision-making position, more. Talked about more earlier in these videos, and right now, more. Ukraine needs more support from the West. Let's do that for sure. All right. Now the thing I'm going to talk about is this. It's an apple. Why? Well, I'm going to mention an apple because the apocryphal story is that Isaac Newton was sitting under a tree, apple fell on his head, and he discovered gravity. The real story is completely, that's not what it is. So if you want to read what Newton had to say, there's a book called Principia Mathematica that Newton wrote. Newton had his ideas and evolved them using mathematics, and he had to invent the mathematics to evolve his ideas, and that's it. Now, this discussion about Newton and gravity, what does that have to do with anything? Well, in the last video, I mentioned that governments do not spend money. Governments do not spend money, and governments with progressive taxation, that means, say a municipal government is a little tiny bit different because the taxation comes from, the revenue comes from, it's unrelated to income. But anyway, that's a kind of a longer explanation. But anyway, your government in society has an important role, and that role is to maximize the well-being of everyone. And you might say, okay, well, the government takes our tax dollars and, takes my money and spends it and da-da-da-da. Well, what does this have to do with Isaac Newton? Okay, gravity. Isaac Newton didn't create gravity. He didn't invent gravity. He didn't manufacture it out of the air, nor did Albert Einstein invent the cosmology. Okay, whoa, we have a little bit extra noise here. But anyway, in the same way, the trees around me, they don't know they're trees. If you look at the trees over here, or if you look at the trees over here, they existed a long, long, long time before I did, a long time before we did, a long time before humanity really. And they've been trees all their lives, and their ancestors have been trees. Everyone's been trees. But they didn't know they're trees. Tree. It's just a name. It's a name given to a thing so that we can talk about it. Okay. Now, money. Money is a, well, in the economic sense, money fulfills roles. The idea of money, one thing it does is it eliminates the need for a double coincidence. Like if you have a cow and your neighbor and you need a horse, so now you have to go and find somebody that has a horse that needs a cow, then you can trade your cow for that horse, and that works out. what money does is it's a medium of exchange, and it allows you to get a horse without having to get rid of your cow. You have some money. That's it. It's an abstraction. That's one thing that money does. But the role of government is to maximize welfare, well-being across society. And I talked about the production possibility curve, like this idea that what do we have and what do we know? What are the resources that are at hand? What is our knowledge that we have that we can use to create things from these resources that people want? And this idea of the individuals in society and the ever-expanding scope of human wants and needs. Okay, but this idea of the government not spending money. It's not the idea of money. This fulfills the same role as this idea of calling a tree or calling a fish a fish. I mean, a fish doesn't know it's a fish. A fish just swims around and is hopefully happy and meets other similar fish, and they have more fish, and life goes on. Okay. So the government has to fulfill this role where resource in our world, and then we use that so that humans can continue and prosper and achieve happiness. Okay, that sounds a little tiny bit airy-fairy, I'll admit, but it's real. Okay, this is a real thing. So, for example, let's talk about the ground. Okay, so the ground has resource. Now, at one time, our humans, and we were cold, right? So we discovered that something would burn and would give off energy, and it would make us warm. We discovered that we could make shelter from some of these materials that are around here. We discovered that we could make clothing from some other materials, and that was really, really great. But it's this discovery of resource and the expansion that really is important. And this idea I talked about before about criteria and how our criteria changes. The things that we want evolve, and the manner in which we deliver them changes. So in the spectrum here, talked before about what I got here. I'll open this one up. It's kind of nice. Okay, these are resources of, say, people, skill, knowledge, and up here is stuff. Okay. Now, if you have this, and this space in here are all the things that we can make with our people and with our stuff. Okay. There you go. Now, if we roll the clock back a little bit, this idea about wanting to be warm, let's talk about a resource, a petrochemical thing. So we had whales. So it was whaling. Anybody read Moby Dick? Moby Dick's great book. Okay, it's called one of the great books. But at the time of Moby Dick, is light came from whale oil. There were whale oil lamps, and people traversed the planet looking for whales so that we could extract their blubber, that we could render it down into oil, and that oil would drip into your lamp and would give you illumination to light your evening so that you could read after it got dark. There. Okay, so the desire is to have illumination and be able to read, and in the simple-minded way that people went about things for, well, even today, we're simple-minded, was that we equated reading and light with whales and whale oil, which was not that great for reading, actually, and horrible for the whales. Okay. Then some people discovered that, oh, lo and behold, there's this other stuff you could burn, and it was came from the ground, is oil. So this petroleum that was this, well, you get it, was with a thing called impact drilling, was dink, 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 and it took a long time, and you'd get oil. And the purpose of oil wasn't what you think now. It wasn't to lubricate your car. It wasn't to burn in your outmoded internal combustion engine. And internal combustion engines are, any combustion really at this moment is not a great idea, but we can talk about that later. But that was not what oil was. At the time, like 1850-ish, oil was used to illuminate the dark so that you could read. Okay. Then advance a little bit. Then we discovered, then there was the steam engine, the heat engine. And these heat engines at the time, like say I'm going to say about 1800, they were founded on the basis of nothing. They were founded on the basis of tinker, like mucking around and seeing what you could do, and then people created a steam engine. That was kind of good, but a dispassionate thermodynamic analysis of a steam engine at the day gets you to about 1% efficient. So for every 100 tons of coal you manage to shovel into your steam engine, you got about 1 unit of useful work from that, which is horrible. These days, electric motors are about 99% efficient, or 100 really. Okay. What does this have to do with government and money? Is that this idea that what do we have? What do we know? So as our know expands, then we can revisit the things we have in a different light, and we can see how they can be used better. And continuing with the petrochemical ideas, is that one time, ages ago, like 1965, okay, natural gas, methane, the stuff that probably you're using to heat your home now, which is in the modern light is not a great idea, but it's what we have, what commonly we do, or many people do. Natural gas was considered a waste product, was either thrown away completely or burned at the site, flared off, they called it. So we just get rid of that stuff. That's no good. And because we want the oil. And then someone come up with a better idea. It's like, hey, we can use that. The point is that the usefulness of things, and the usefulness of our resources, and the usefulness of our ideas evolve and change and improve as our comprehension of our knowledge. We have our knowledge, but then remember I talked about there's the difference between knowing something and really getting it? Well, as we move towards really getting it, even though our knowledge is at a horrible, infantile, like nascent, efflorescent moment, we're not, we don't know everything there is to know for sure, like for sure in a big for sure. If there's anything that's for sure, that is it. That's for sure. As our knowledge expands, then our capacity to use our resource expands, and that's great. So government has to move. What we do is we create a foundation upon which all these things can occur. Okay, we nudge things in the right direction. We discourage things in another direction that's not correct as things evolve. And this idea begets the notion that it is important that the entities that are, our elected officials, our elected officials in a democratic sense, have a knowledge, or even better than a knowledge, they have an awareness of the imperfection of their knowledge and have a willingness to seek counsel of expertise in specific areas and further counsel of expertise in general areas, so that the decisions that are being made on the most sound foundation possible. Okay, the most sound foundation possible. An example of this is the coronavirus pandemic. I mean, holy smoke! You know, that was really bad, very bad. Thankfully, vaccines occurred, and the vaccines occurred from this idea of what do we have, what do we know. 30 years ago, or more than that, work on there was work being done on vaccines and cellular items, like Dr. Kari Kirilko was doing this work famously. You can look her up and read it and stuff. And this idea that the vaccines were developed very quickly is a fallacy. It's just not true. The messenger RNA technology that enabled the modern vaccines for coronavirus, that's been in the cooker for 30 years. Okay, and there you go. And then all of a sudden, in a magical sense, that knowledge really came in handy. Okay, like anyone that thinks that vaccination and science didn't save our bacon, that's not the case. Anyway, so this idea that our government exists for a lot of reasons. One of them is to expand this idea of this production possibility curve so that we can know more and we can recognize the resources that we have that exist in our world in a new way, in an improved way. That's it. Okay. This one's a bit of a ramble. I'll give it. There you go. But hopefully you find some merit in this stuff. And then if you like the video, give it a little like. If you don't like the video, give it a like anyway. Leave a comment. Leave a spiteful comment. If you have a reason why this is just way too rambly or just completely wrong, just that's okay. Let's have at it. There you go. But this notion that governments, this linkage between this idea that money is to resource humanity and the economy, as calling a fish is to fish, or calling a tree. I mean, it doesn't matter if you call a tree a fish or you call a fish a tree. A fish is still a fish and a tree is still a tree. Okay? They don't know. It's an abstraction that allows us to advance our lives and to at least have words that we can use to talk about it. Okay? Anyway, my name's Bruce. This is my classroom in the forest, and hopefully you found it somewhat enjoyable. All right? Thanks a lot. Okay, bye now.